sa silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiin, sa dagat at bundok sa simul. Sa langit mo bagaw, may dilagang tula at awit, sa paglayang minamahal, ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdilingin, ang bituin at araw niyang kailan pang may di magdidilim. Lupa ng halang ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pagmay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Thank you, UP Cebu Serenata. Maayong ugto, UP Cebu and UP Fight! Thank you for your patience. My name is Carla Bautista from the House of Representatives, Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reform Secretariat, and we are mighty glad to be here. Today is a day of listening, studying, and thinking of the 24 truly important measures that aim to dissolve the concentration of power among families in Philippine government as commanded by the 1987 Philippine Constitution in its prohibition of political dynasties in the country 39 years ago. But before we begin, we wish to take this opportunity to express our profuse thanks, our deepest gratitude to the University of the Philippines, Cebu Chancellor Leo B. Malaga, for making this all happen. Oh my goodness! Daghang salamat po, Chancellor Leo, and to our UP Cebu faculty who let their students go for today. Maraming salamat po mga profs. Thank you po. And of course, to our students from the different organizations here in UP Cebu, we are so happy to be learning with you today on the anti-political dynasty measures. All right. To begin, let's take a listen to the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 20th Congress, Speaker Boji D.
Representatives, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat, maayong buntag sa lahat po ng ating mga kababayan dito sa Cebu. My warmest greetings to you all. Sa ngalan po ng House of Representatives, nagpapasalamat po kami na binuksan po ninyo ang inyong puso, isipan at komunidad para sa mahalagang usapin ng Anti-Political Dynasty Bill. And to the people of Cavite, thank you for setting the tone in our first round of consultations. Ang inyo pong aktibo at madamdaming pakikilahok ay isang tagumpay, hindi lamang para sa Kongreso, subalit tanda rin ng malasakit ninyo sa ating bayan. Sa ating unang konsultasyon sa Cavite, nakita po natin kung gaano kainteresado ang mga Pilipinong makibahagi sa paksang ito. The discussions were honest, thoughtful, and deeply rooted in the real experiences. We heard both sides, and rather than divide us, these differing views strengthened our understanding of the complexities of the issue. Now, we have a clear appreciation of the balance that must be struck between people's right to choose and the broader goal of expanding opportunities for public service to more of our countrymen. Ngayon naman po ay lumalapit ang Kongreso sa inyo, mga mahal naming taga-Visayas. Dahil sa inyong tinig at damdamin ay aming pinagpapahalagaan at sinasaalang-alang. Mga kababayan, we are serious about passing a fair, just, and implementable anti-political dynasty law in the 20th Congress. And we are equally firm in our belief that any law we pass must be a product of wide, inclusive, and sincere consultation. Isang batas na maingat na binalangkas, masusing pinag-aralan, at nakaugat sa tunay na saloobin po ng mga Pilipino. Habang nagpapatuloy ang mga talakayang ito, hinihiling namin na manatiling bukas, magalang, at makabuluhan ang ating pong diskusyon. Ang kapulungan ay handang makinig at kumilos sa ikabubuti po ng ating bansa. Dagang salamat sa inyong tanan.
I wish to acknowledge foremost, they were here at 7:30 in the morning. Please stand and be recognized. The Daughters of Charity of Central Visayas Region. They were here so early to attend our public consultation. Again, we thank the faculty and the staff of the University of the Philippines, CEBU, the students, and workers, government workers such as ourselves, from LGUs from all over Metro Cebu. Dagang salamat sa inyong lahat. All right. Now, let me pass the microphone to the hardworking chairman of the House of Representatives, Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms for the 20th Congress, the representative of the 1st District of the province of Lanao del Sur, ang aming poging-poging, Representative Zia Alonto Adyong.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ma'am Carla. Maayong udto kaninyong tanan. Una sa tanan, mangayo kong pasaylo ninyo kay supposedly dapat magsugog tag alas 9. Dayon, wala man di man to control kay na-cancel man na akong flight from 6 a.m. from Cagayan de Oro padulong dire. So, I had to take the earliest flight from PAL, which is 9:40. Tobi, kaya wama ko kabalo nga grabe ka traffic diya sa Mandawi. So, I was confident na muabot ko dire mga alas 10. So, mga more than an hour. So, that's why mangayo kong pasaylo ninyo nga naghuwat mo sa amo nga kwan. But definitely, nami dire aron madunggan namo ang kung sa inyong mga gusto na may tabo din sa atong plano nga magpasarta og pulisiya sa atong gobyerno aron matagan og restriction unsa ba atong restriction sa anti-political dynasty. But having said that, apologizing to each and every one of you, let me of course read my prepared speech. Ikabalo ka sa mga committee reports kay committee hearings ang inani. We normally share our views by way of expressing it through officially, of course, acknowledging the presence of everybody, but as well as the gist and the meat of what we are here today, which is basically the anti-political dynasty. And so allow me first to just read to you a very, very short, very brief opening statements with the indulgence of the members of this committee. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Maayong adlaw to kaninyong tanan. Honorable members of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, the University of Visayas, UP Visayas community, Attorney Leo Malagar, UP Cebu Chancellor, Attorney Neri Colmenares, the ever available former member of the House of Representatives, students of the UP Cebu, to all stakeholders present, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. First of all, let me thank the Honorable Speaker, Faustino Boji D. III, for his leadership and for his commitment to ensuring that the voices of the people are heard on this measure. We likewise express our sincere appreciation to UP President Angelo Gigil Jimenez, UP Cebu Chancellor Attorney Leo B. Malagar, and the entire UP Cebu administration for hosting this important public forum. In today's public forum, we are determined to listen to the voice of the people of the Visayas on the 24 anti-political dynasty bills referred to the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms for consideration and deliberation. The anti-political dynasty law we craft will influence the democratic institutions we would inherit tomorrow. That is why your presence here matters. The Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reform carries the responsibility of protecting and advancing the right of suffrage and measures on the conduct of elections, plebiscites, initiatives, recall, and referenda. At its core, our work is about safeguarding the people's sovereignty. Our Constitution declares that sovereignty resides in the people. That means political power begins and ends with the citizens. This public forum on the proposed anti-political dynasty measure is about participation in one of the most fundamental elements of democracy, the right to vote, the fairness of elections, and the structure of political power. Before reaching this stage, the committee conducted 2 prior committee hearings and a public consultation in Cavite. We examined constitutional principles, legal standards, and practical implementation concerns. We consulted scholars, constitutional experts, legal advocates, and representatives from the Commission on Elections. We reviewed various proposals in light of both constitutional limits and governance realities. We have heard citizens from Luzon on their lived realities when it comes to political dynasties. But no reform will be meaningful if it is crafted without the people it is meant to serve. You have the opportunity now, today, to help us craft the key part of the rules of the policies that we intend to provide, which is the anti-political dynasty. The future is not something you wait for. It is something you build, something we build. If today's Philippines is in loving hands, then let us express that love through responsible participation, thoughtful debate, and principled engagement. Love of the country requires action. This is what we meant by loving the country. This is an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, for the committee to solicit not only your inputs, your comments, your suggestions, but also to help us to craft a responsive, reflective, anti-political dynasty measures that would guide the future of this country through providing the citizens their right to vote. This is your opportunity to speak. It is our duty as your representatives to listen. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po tayong lahat. Before we begin with the actual deliberation, requesting all of the participants to express their views later on, I would first like to introduce probably and at the same time acknowledge the members who are present here today. Many of them are actually authors of the bills that were referred to this committee. By the way, 24 bills na po, Ma'am Laila, ang na-refer sa committee natin. 24 bills, 24 measures, yeah. So we start with the representative from Kabataan Party List. She's the author of HB 209, or one of the authors rather, of House Bill 209, Representative Rene Luisco. An author of House Bill number 381, representing the 2nd District of Bukidnon and the chairman of the Committee on Dangerous Drugs, Congressman Jonathan Keith Flores. Ito, di ko na kailangan ata introduce kasi kilalang-kilala nyo na ito. She's the author of House Bill 874, representing the 1st District of the City of Cebu, Congresswoman QT Del Mar. Parati po nyo itong nakikita, naririnig sa radyo at sa TV. Sabi nga ni Bambo, anong balita sa radyo at TV? Representative Edgar Irice, from the 2nd District of the City of Caloocan. He's the author of House Bill number 2037. Of course, kilalang-kilala nyo na rin po ito. Dating senadora, dating sekretary ng Department ng Kagawaran ng Hustisya. Author po siya ng House Bill number 2131. Mamamayang Liberal Party List, Congresswoman Laila De Lima. From representing Gabriela Women's Party List, she's also one of the authors of House Bill number 4784, Representative Sarah Jane Ilago. Nandito ba yung kaibigan ko? Wala pa? Okay, sige. Mamaya ko na lang one of the... Okay, we also would like to recognize Vice Chair of the committee on this Vice Chair of this committee, representing 2nd District of Rizal, Tan Juanco Emigdio III. Sorry, sir. Representing Ako Bicol, one of our vice chairs, Alfredo Garbin, Congressman Alfredo Garbin. Okay. Okay. Representing Wantahanan Party List, Congressman Nathaniel Aducado. Okay, okay na. Okay, sige. So, maraming salamat po sa aking mga kasamahan na dumalo galing po Maynila para po makilahok at makipag-usap at makinig sa magiging hinain po ng ating mga kababayan pagdating po sa panukalang batas na ito ang magbigay buhay sa Article 2, Section 26 ng ating saligang batas. Sir, Vice Chair, let's start with ladies first, no? Boss Egay, ladies first. So we start off with one of the authors, Representative Ko, for her remarks. 3 minutes, ma'am, para pas mabilis po tayo. Salamat. Ay.
Thank you. Iksian ko, Chair, para sige, okay. Ayan. Okay. Maayong buntag sa iyong tanan. Maraming salamat po sa pagpunta sa public consultation tungkol sa mga House bills to prohibit political dynasties as provided in the 1987 Constitution. Sa bahagi natin, bahagi po kami ng Makabayan Bloc, filed House Bill 209, the first bill filed in the 20th Congress prohibiting political dynasties, bringing the fight since 2001 nung final po ito noong una ng Bayan Muna. Historical but long time coming and matagal nang necessary na ma-file po ito. Narito po ako bilang miyembro ng kamarang ito, pero more importantly, bilang tinig ng henerasyong namana ang isang political na sistema na nababaon sa krisis. Tayo, ang henerasyong isinilang sa pangakong pagkapantay-pantay at greater political participation, pero binigo ng mga monopolya sa politiko ng iilang pamilya at negosyong nasa likod na sumisira nito. Today, we breathe life into our future. So nandito tayo para i-discuss yung House bills, hindi lang ng sa atin, pero yung sa iba. At tignan natin yung nitty-gritty details nito at pag-usapan natin kung ano bang kailangan. Malinaw kasi sa saligang batas na dapat may equal access for opportunities of public service and therefore bawal ang political dynasties. At dapat gawan ng batas at definition ng Congress ito. So ulitin ko po, constitutional command ang pagkakabatas ng prohibition on political dynasties. It is unfortunate that since the 1987 Constitution, 39 years have passed and various Congresses, various administrations failed this constitutional command. So kaya tumitindig yung 20th Congress, tumitindig tayo, no, na kailangan na ng ganitong batas at bahagi kayo ng prosesong ito. Malinaw po ang modelo at framework ng House Bill 209 ng Makabayan Bloc. No, una, ang prohibition both simultaneous and successive, no, sa political dynasties. Both po ito na pagkasunod-sunod, no, ng walang breaks, and yung sabay-sabay, no, na miyembro ng political families, bawal po. Ikalawa naman, up to the 4th degree of consanguinity and affinity ang prohibition. Hanggang pag magpinsan po ang bawal. No? And ikatlo, ang ating regime right now, no, ay introduce ito bilang qualification bago maging kandidato. Ibig sabihin, sa statement po ng candidacy, certificate of candidacy, na ifa-file ng isang kandidato, nakalagay doon na hindi po kayo miyembro ng political dynasty as provided by law. And therefore, pwedeng magkaroon ng cancellation to that effect at the onset pa lang. No, ang magiging siguro resulta nito, first to file na prohibition at welcome natin yung discussion tungkol doon. At the end of the day, ginagawa natin to para ang kabataan magkaroon ng espasyo for public service. No longer that we will be shut out bilang marginalized sector, oras na ito para tayo ay tuloy-tuloy na maging bahagi ng political processes paghubog ng kinabukasang deserve natin. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Congresswoman Go. Now, may we hear from Congresswoman Cutie Delmar?
Salamat, Chair. Maayong hapon sa tanan. I am your district representative, and I am so glad that my colleagues are here today, and they have chosen, because we have hearings in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. For Luzon, we were at Carmona Carvita last Thursday. For the Visayas, I feel blessed that they decided to hold it right here in Cebu City in my district, because before passing a law, it's always good for us, well, for me and my family at least, to consult with our constituents. Listen to you guys. Hear what you think, if you're for it, if you're against it, and why. That's why we are here. We are your voice. For Mindanao, we are going to be in Cagayan de Oro. In fact, most of us are flying out today because there's only one flight a day. So mo atud mi dito. So dito sad mi mag public hearing. You may ask, aren't you a product of political dynasty? I know you're all thinking that because since 1987, you have not known of any other congressman in Cebu City except for Congressman Raul Delmar, my father, myself, and my brother. Yes. Don't we grow up idolizing the job of our parents? That's why most of us follow their suit. But I am very glad to say, never at any point in time was there more than one Delmar from our family that run in the same elections. That we made sure of. Many times my dad was offered, you run for mayor and then your daughter can run for Congress. My dad said no. We don't want to be selfish. So that's where this is coming from. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here. You know, this is full circle for me. I spent 4 years of college right here in UP Cebu. So it's nice to be back here and to be able to listen to each and every one of you. and we're looking forward to a very meaningful discussion. Thank you very much for your patience this morning, and I'd like to thank you in advance because I know, a lot of you being from UP, I'm so sure this discussion this afternoon will be truly fruitful. Daghang salamat ug maayong hapon sa tanan. Thank you, Chair.
Daghang salamat, Congresswoman Cute Del Mar. Now, may we hear from ML Party List Representative, Congresswoman Laila De Lima. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished colleagues, hello. And good morning, good afternoon It's good afternoon, guests and mga pinalanggan natong kaigsuonan dinhi sa Cebu. Maayong adlaw. In recent months, we have all seen how the Filipino people have collectively expressed dismay and indignation towards what has been repeatedly called the biggest corruption scandal in the country's history. In response to this, it continues to be our duty as citizens, us, members of the House of Representatives, as public officials, to hold accountable those responsible and to identify and address the root causes and systemic cancers that not only tolerate but also exacerbate corruption and injustice. I think the students know this. Several empirical studies have established the direct relation between the dominance of political dynasties and the poverty rates and corruption, and the inverse relation between the dominance of political dynasties with good governance and development. Indeed, the entrenchment, I do believe, the entrenchment of political dynasties in our government also creates openings for the erosion and weakening of mechanisms of accountability, especially when political authority is held by members of the same family across interconnected offices or same or overlapping political subdivisions. Now I'll go straight to my own bill, which is House Bill number 2131. Actually, this bill proposes the coverage of up to the second degree of affinity. And some of the resource speakers we heard so far are also in agreement for second degree in consideration of practicality and implementability. However, I have been saying this, I'm also open to supporting the coverage of up to the fourth degree, especially after hearing the insights and proposals of civil society organizations, advocates, and members of the academe, who argue strongly on the fidelity to the intentions of the 1987 Constitution, which aims to prohibit the concentration of political power among families, especially that, up to the fourth civil degree, under our Filipino culture, these are still close relations. Studies have shown that political families operate as extended and coordinated networks rather than isolated or nuclear units. Also, my bill, HB 2131, prohibits succession and overlapping constituencies, which is consistent with the positions of most civil society organizations, advocates, and members of the academe. Particularly in my bill, only one family member is allowed to hold office if the family member is occupying a national seat. If no one in the family is holding a national seat, family members within the second degree, and as I said, possibly up to fourth degree, are prohibited to hold elective office within the same province. We're all here to listen, and we will welcome your questions, comments, and insights to further enrich the discussions and debates. Before I end, I wish to commend the Sangguniang Panglungsod of the City of Cebu for passing Resolution number 17-1892-2025, dated December 16, 2025, which expresses unequivocal support for the immediate passage of the Anti-Political Dynasty Bill, seeking to ban members of political dynasties defined as relatives within the fourth degree from simultaneously running for national and local positions, including party lists, as a vital measure to strengthen democratic institutions, promote transparency, and ensure accountability in governments. Ang kapangyarihan ay nagmumula sa taong bayan. Ang gobyerno ay para sa sambayanang Pilipino, hindi para sa iilang pamilya lamang. It is this representative's sincere hope that together we can finally see a measure that truly democratizes access to public office. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Ma'am Laila. Now we may hear from the Gabriela Party List representative, Congresswoman Sara Jane Ilago.
Hi, maayong udto sa inyong tanan. Maraming salamat. First and foremost, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your presence and your willingness to engage on one of the most fundamental issues we have today in relation to our democracy. House Bill number 4874, which this representation from Gabriela Women's Party principally authored, and which is also first filed by Bayan Muna in the year 2009, hopes and really seeks to ensure that every candidate, regardless of their background, have a fair shot, not just in running in the elections, but at winning the elections at the national or the local level. The Anti-Political Dynasty Bill is also at its core a fight against systemic corruption. Hindi lang ito yung kumbaga mga hakbang natin sa paglaban sa korupsyon, ngunit napakahalaga nitong hakbang. We believe that when we break the dynastic system, we also break a major engine in the systemic corruption, kung saan dumadaloy yung mga pag-uusap at mga talakayan na iilan lang ang nagdidesisyon tungkol sa mga kontrata, tungkol sa kung paano ginagastos ang pondo ng ating bayan, tungkol sa kung ano ba ang dapat binibigyan ng prioridad pagdating sa mga palisiya at mga programa. Hindi lang para sa mga kababaihan, kundi para sa mga kabataan at sa mga susunod pa na henerasyon ng ating mamamayang Pilipino. We are here today for a consultation to seek your insights, listen to your views, to understand your perspectives, and we also hope to learn from you. Alam natin na hindi dito magtatapos sa pagpapasalang at pagsusulong ng anti-political dynasty. We're batting for campaign finance reform. We're batting for a genuine party list reform. We're also batting for budget transparency. Ang dami pa nating mga laban. At ang tanging panawagan po natin, sana hindi matapos sa konsultasyon na ito. Hindi lang tayo makikinig, hindi lang tayo mag-uusap. We'll get organized, we'll stay vigilant, and we'll continue the fight against systemic corruption. Maraming salamat at kami po ay excited na makinig mula sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat, Congresswoman Sara. Nais naman natin pakinggan ang kinatawan ng 3rd District ng Bukidnon, Representative John Keith Flores.
Mga hapon sa itong tanan. Ako isa ka produkto sa isa po ka pamilya nga naidugay na sa politika. Sapod ko ka produkto sa UP Cebu. Una din ni karon nawagan sa inyo na dapat suportahan ninyo yung mga lain-lain nga bills na din ni karon. Kaya kung walang pressure gikan sa katawhan, dili po ni mapasa nga balaod. Kung inyo ning kalimtan, inyo pong kalimtan nga amo ning gi-file nga mga bills. The more nga inyo i-pressure ang mga katawhan nga botaran kini o suportaran kini, the more mapugos ang mga members sa Congress o members sa Senado nga ipasa kini long time overdue na bill ang kaning anti-political dynasty. Kung dili niyo suportahan sa nga na pamaagi, kanig hapon mga pamilya kanig hapon mga apelyido ang inyong makitaan sa pipila ka tuig mo balik din sa inyo mga utana at ng political dynasty. Dili hapon maundang mga kaigsunan, no? Mawala hapon ning mga dili magaling naong, pero mawala hapon mga apelyido ang inyong makita. Kung dili tani pasa, kung dili ni mapasa karon. Daghang salamat.
Parang ako yung tinuturo mo, Chan. Okay. Thank you very much, Congressman Flores. Gusto naman natin kung marinig mula sa kinatawan ng Caloocan City, Representative Edgar Elise.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa mga kapwa ko kinatawan sa Kongreso, mga guro at mga kapwa ko kabataan ng UP. Magandang umaga po. This is now my 5th term in Congress, and I've consistently fought for the enactment of the anti-political dynasty law. Not only a sworn duty to uphold Article 2, Section 26 of the 1987 Constitution, but as part of my lifelong battle against political dynasties. My advocacy against political dynasties predates the 1987 Constitution. For more than 4 decades, I have fought entrenched dynasties in my city, Caloocan. Personal ko pong naranasan bilang isang ordinaryong kabataan noon, walang sikat na apelido, mahirap, walang kamag-anak na politiko, kung papaano ako hamakin, alipustahin at takutin bilang isang taong gustong maglingkod lang sa bayan. Alam ko kung paano sumuot sa butas ng karayom upang makapasok lang sa paglilingkod sa bayan. I was bullied. I was chased by goons. My family was threatened. Our headquarters were ransacked. My supporters were hurt and intimidated. Barangay and youth officials who supported me were suspended, harassed, and punished. These are not theories to me. Ito ay buhay na karanasan. That is why I know, both in my heart and in my mind, the mindset of entrenched political dynasties. Their mindset revolves around entitlement. They see themselves as natural leaders, as if governance is a family inheritance and a divine right. They convince themselves that the people cannot thrive without their continued presence. And this mindset weakens democracy. Lumakas at tumaba ang mga political dynasties noong panahon ng rehimeng Marcos. The dictatorship found it convenient to sustain regional and provincial dynasties to remain in power and suppress dissent. The principle was simple. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. And we both remain in power. In doing so, public funds became dangerous tools to perpetuate dynasties. Principles of public finance were ignored. All that mattered was to stay in power. The result, from being the second biggest economy in Asia in the 1960s, na pag-iwanan na po tayo ng mga bansang malayo ang ekonomiya sa atin noon. The poorest communities in our country are ruled by political dynasties. The wisdom of the framers of the 1987 Constitution was precisely to dismantle these dynasties because they block progress, monopolize power, and deny equal access to ordinary Filipinos who have the talent, the skills, and integrity to lead. My colleagues, let us not forget the violence born out of greed for power. The assassination of Senator Ninoy Aquino in 1983. The killing of Evelio Javier of Antique, the Maguindanao Massacre in 2009, and many others whose names history may not fully remember, but whose blood stains our democracy. My version of the anti-political dynasty bill is the product of persistent and principled advocacy. In fact, this was the first proposal that passed the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms in 2013. It reached the plenary, was debated, but was eventually archived because the process of political dynasties refused to surrender even a single vestige of their power. At yan din po yung mararanasan natin ngayon. This proposal is a reasonable and enforceable compromise. It allows only 2 members of the family to hold public office simultaneously, one at the national level and one at the local level. If passed, fat dynasties will definitely disappear. It limits the prohibition to the second degree of consanguinity, meaning it applies only to the immediate family household, mag-ama, maglolo, magkakapatid, at kanilang mga asawa. Beyond the household, enforceability becomes unrealistic and arbitrary. Hindi makatwiran at hindi epektibo kung pati magpipinsan at mas malayo ka mag-anak, mga apo sa tuhod ay babawalan. Fourth degree of consanguinity is impossible to implement. Vice Mayor Osmeña. Gandang hapon po. Imagine kung 5 magpipinsan ang tumakbo ng sabay-sabay. Sino ang hindi papayagan? First come, first serve? 1 linggo pa lang bago simula ng filing ng certificates of candidacies, pipila na. Mag-aaway kung sino nauna. At ang pinakamasama, paano kung yung nauna, yung hindi pinakamagaling? Baka magpatayan pa. It will turn the COMELEC into a genealogical tribunal. Kung ang iyong immediate family ay hindi magkasundo at sabay-sabay kayong kumandidato, pare-pareho kayong madidisqualify sa aking panukala. Simple lang ang aking katwiran. Kung ang sarili mong pamilya ay hindi mo kayang pagkaisahin, pamunuan, ano mo mapapagkaisa ang bayan? This man, away, nagmumurahan, mag-ama, nagbabastusan, at minsan, nagpapatayan pa dahil lang sa kapangyarihan. There are good dynasties who brought progress in their localities, but they are exceptions rather than the rule. If they are truly good, then 1 or 2 of them can lead the government, for the rest of them can choose other careers that can help their community. Good dynasties have no monopoly of talent. Paano lalabas ang mas magaling kung sila na lang lagi? Paano lalabas yung pinakamagaling kung sila na lang lagi? The bill now fulfills our constitutional duty as we see them as a consequence of decades of our inaction. Ghost projects, political, social aid, and the mismanagement of public finance. Tama na po. Sobra na po. Ngayon na po. Tulungan niyo po kami. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Boss Congressman Edgar Erice. First, we'd like to, of course, acknowledge former Mayor of Cebu City and now Vice Mayor Tommy Osmeña. Daghang salamat, sir, sa inyong pag-join sa among karon dawa. Now, may we hear from Congressman Dino Tanhuatco from Rizal.
Maraming salamat, Chair. With your permission, colleagues, to our gracious hosts, the UP, Cebu, Vice Mayor Tommy Osmeña, and of course our colleague, Congresswoman QT Del Mar, sa lahat ng mga estudyante dito sa UP, sa lahat ng mga iba't ibang sektor na naimbita ngayong umaga at hapon, maraming salamat. They say that every journey starts with a first step. And I think we give credit to the present Speaker of the House of Representatives, Speaker Faustino Bojiti III, as well as Majority Leaders, Floor Leader Sandro Marcos, who initiated this movement or this action to be for the House, especially the committee led by Congressman Zia, to hold these public consultations and start getting a consensus, the consensus building on the issue of political dynasty. We all know that there is this concept, political dynasty, that needs to be defined clearly, and if we are to put life into our Constitution, we have to engage the public, engage all stakeholders to be able to come up with a final law or final piece of legislation that will be able to enable the provisions of the Constitution. Kaya maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. We need your inputs. This cannot be done only by the legislative body, but it has to be a result of consensus building. And that's why we appreciate your presence. We appreciate the hosting by UP, by the city. We appreciate the efforts by the committee. And we are more than excited to hear what you can say. Maraming salamat po at maayong buntag sa inyo lahat.
Maraming salamat, Congressman Tanhuatco. Now, the certainly not the least, sabi nga nila, the last but certainly not the least, Congressman Pido Garbin.
Thank you. Magandang maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. Tama ba? And to the UP Cebu, our Chancellor, and to all the students who are here this afternoon, salamat po sa ating host, Congressman Cutie Delmar, and my colleague in the 15th Congress, Vice Mayor Tami Usmeña. Gandang hapon ho. Ours is a Republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authorities emanate from them. And that's why we are here this afternoon to hear the sentiment and fulfill the mandate of the Filipino people under our Constitution. We have what we call the anti-political dynasty provision, a mandate where we can find in Section 26, Article 2 of the 1987 Constitution. This aims to promote democratic competition, but this policy is not self-executing, and that's why we have this 24 bills in the committee in order to come up with a definition, an enabling law that will pursue the demand, that constitutional demand. We want to broaden political participation and at the same time to limit the concentration of power sa nagkakailang pamilya lamang. But we want to make sure that this electoral reform should be real, makatotohanan, pangmatagalan, and something that can withstand judicial scrutiny. Salamat po. Magandang hapon.
Salamat, Kong Pido. Lahat naman ata nakapagsalita. So now, may we ask yes, Ma'am Carla to please moderate. So, si Ma'am Carla po, she'll be calling your the individual participants, the names and the organizations. Mag-intermission muna. Okay. Ikaw yung mag-intermission?
Pwede rin naman, sir.
Okay, so now we will now open to call all the participants will be...
Intermission first.
I'm sorry.
Intermission.
Okay, there's an intermission. Okay, sige. Okay.
Because it's getting hot in here, and we are so serious about really important topics and issues, we will want to call on our performances from the brilliant groups here in the University of the Philippines, CEBU, presenting a lively and graceful performance entitled Pandango sa Wasiwas, a vibrant dance filled with flowing movements and radiant energy, celebrating harmony, rhythm, and Filipino artistry. Let us give it up for Iskultura of the University of the Philippines, Cebu.
take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past and the pettiness. A reflection of the emptiness, hilarious. You think you're worth my time, you're delirious, mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior, inferior. You know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gotta learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable.
Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up, no, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind. I gotta make it, I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages. A vacant, modern kingdom for the taking.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Wow. You have it so easy, guys. During our time, it was an actual fire inside those cups. Now that's, I suppose, LED lights. My God, there's no getting burnt part of the program. All right, our next performer is the UP Cebu Dance Sport Varsity Team.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help.
Thank you so much. Such wonderful dancers. So now, while lunch is being served to our authors and our honorable representatives, I wish to open the period of manifestations from all of you, from the different organizations that registered. So if you wish to speak, all you have to do is approach me so we can put you on the list. The first is the University Student Council Chair of the University of the Philippines, CEBU, Student Council Vice Chair, Miss Athena Romulo. Yes.
Good afternoon. Ayan po, isang mapagpalayang hapon po sa lahat. Ako nga po pala si Athena Romulo, ang kasalukuyang Vice Chairperson ng UP Cebu University Student Council. Isang manifestation po mula sa amin na kami po ay naniniwala na talaga na ang education is a right. Hindi pribilehiyo na ipinagkakaloob ng mga nasa kapangyarihan. Ngunit sa kabila nito, nananatiling kapos pa rin ang budget sa education. Kulang ang aming mga silid-aralan, mababa ang sahod ng mga guro, at pasan ng estudyante ang gasto sa pang-araw-araw na pangangailangan para makapag-aral. Dito po sa UP Cebu, danas namin ang kakulangan ng aming mga espasyo kung saan makapagpapatuloy sana ang mga eskolar ng bayan sa kanilang pag-aaral at pagseserbisyo sa mga tao. Umaabot na sa punto na kung saan yung mga students po namin ay nagko-compete o nag-aaway pa kung sino pa yung mas deserving na gumamit sa mga student spaces na ito para lang makapag-aral at para ma-utilize ito sa kanilang mga activities. Kulang din po ang iba pang mga facilities namin, basic services namin dito. For example, sa mga athletes at equipments at para sa mga laboratories. Ngayon po, hindi po ito kakulangan sa pondo. Ito po ay kakulangan sa paninindigan, sa pagpa-prioritize sa education na nag-uugat sa existence of political dynasties. Kasi po ang mga political dynasties sa ating gobyerno ay siyang nagmamonopolize ng kapangyarihan nila sa Estado. Concentration of power. Pinag-prioritize self-preservation and control, hindi ang basic social services na dapat natatamasa sana ng mga estudyante. At malinaw po, hindi naging priority ng mga dinastiya na iyan ang edukasyon. Sa halip na mapunta ang budget sa paaralan, guro at estudyante, ang pondo ay nare-redirect sa mga pork barrel projects. Ang pondo ay ginagamit sa mga infrastructures na magbe-benefit ng political visibility para lang sa mga pangalan ng mga corrupt na officials na ito at hindi ang para sa pagkatuto ng mga estudyante. Itinutulak ng isang commercialized na education. Kasabay nito ay itinutulak din ng political dynasty ang commercialization ng ating edukasyon. Kapag kulang ang suporta ng pampublikong paaralan, napipilitan ang kabataan na umasa sa mga pribadong edukasyon ng mga institusyon na hindi naman hindi kaya ng mga masa. Sa ganitong sistema, ang edukasyon ay nagiging negosyo po. Ang edukasyon ay hindi siyang nagiging serbisyo. Kaya ang resulta, napag-iiwanan ang mga anak ng ating masa na mga magsasaka, mga manggagawa at mga maralita. Habang pinapanatili ang murang lakas pagawa at tahimik na mga mamamayan. Kaya malinaw po ang naging panawagan natin na sa pag-expose po nito at sa pag-stop po ng political dynasty sa pamamaraan ng pagpasa ng bill na ito, sana'y maging malinaw din po sa atin na kung totoong pinaprioritize at pinapahalagan po ang right to education sa mga estudyante, naway bigyan po tayo ng sapat na pondo sa edukasyon. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat.
Thank you, Athena.
Carla, wait lang. Just to respond to that, but for the information of everyone, in 2026 budget, educational sector has the highest funding. It's more than, I guess, more than 100+ trillion budget for education. Yeah, that is also in compliance with what the Constitution states. So, thank you very much. Are you in favor of this measure? Just want to get your response to that. Categorical, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I would also like to respond for...
Sorry. That's an information. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. The next...
We wish to remind our manifestors that really time is finite. So we have to be brief. You know, if you want to get the message across, you cannot say it 8 times. Just say it once and we're listening. All right. Okay. The next manifestor would be the chapter president of the UP Academic Employees, Mr. Noe Santillan. Magandang hapon po, Mr. Santillan.
Mayong hapon, usa ka mapaling gawas nun nga hapon kanatong tanan. O daghang salamat sa higayon nga magkaatubangay og mga tawo nga sama ninyo. Sa tibuok namong kinabuhi, taod-taod na pud mi sa unyon panagsara mi makahalubilo og mga sama ninyo nga tawo. Sa dili pa nako basahon ang sobra 300 lang kapulong statement gikan sa chapter sa Academic Union, tuguti ko sa pagtubag as the president of the chapter of the All UP Academic Employees Union to respond to the response of the Honorable Adyong from the neighboring islands of Mindanao. Despite the claim of every administration that education sector got the biggest chunk of the national annual expenditure, yet it falls short from the standards set, for example, by UNESCO and World Bank, namely that it must reach at least the so-called 20% of the annual national expenditure. Correct me if I got it wrong, but as far as my memory is concerned, we never reached that standard as set by the following organizations. We fall short.
Sorry to cut you off, sir. Sir, we want to hear from you your position on anti-political dynasty.
Yeah.
We can discuss about other things like the budget.
I'm done.
But I would like to please. We are pressed with time. There will be a lot of participants who would like also to speak out. We are here to precisely hear you. What is your position on political dynasty?
Yes, this is it.
Yeah, can we at least limit our discussion on that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of the 18 House bills and of the 6 main versions filed during the 20th Congress, the All UP Academic Employees Union, UP Cebu chapter, supports the House Bill 209, filed by Representatives Antonio Tinio of ACT Teachers Party List and Rene Loico of Kabataan Party List, and the House Bill 4784 filed by Sarah Jane Elago of Gabriela Women's Party. After careful scrutiny of the aforementioned House bills, at least we reached 18. As to the similarities and differences of these bills, we in the Academic Union of UP Cebu find those bills that are numbered 209 and 4784. They are simple to understand by the ordinary citizens, yet the most progressive to encompass prohibiting political dynasty regardless of classification, borrowing the terms and concepts of Boholyo Tihanke, regardless of classification, either slim or fat, and either traditional or emerging dynasty. It is in this regard that we in the Academic Union agree with the proposal of the Makabayan Bloc to prohibit any succession or any simultaneous running and holding of any office from the national to the local level within the 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity. Hence, the Academic Union of UP Cebu maintains that there must be no political dynasty at all levels and that neither simultaneous running nor simultaneous holding of office nor succession of office within the 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity. It is already over a century since the modern Principalia, to borrow the term of Dante Simbulan, since the modern Principalia rules this country, and a quarter of a century, 25 years since an anti-political dynasty measure, House Bill 463, was filed by Bayan Muna in the 12th Congress in 2001. And it took 10 years, a decade, for that House Bill 463 by Bayan Muna to reach the committee level. The Constitution will turn 40 years old next year. It is already overdue to address the malady of the political dynasty and maximize the aims of the Constitution, particularly Article 2, Section 26. Thank you very much.
All right. Our next manifester would be the faculty of the University of San Carlos, Cebu, Professor Grace Magalzo Buwalat. May we call on Professor Magalzo Buwalat, please.
Sorry po, nalito ako sa microphone. So magandang hapon po sa lahat. Maayong hapon, mayong adlaw kanatong tanan. So I am Grace from the University of San Carlos. I would like to manifest that the debate whether you are pro or anti-political dynasty, should not devolve into simplistic binaries of good versus bad. Instead, the central questions are the following. How do we strengthen democratic competition while respecting constitutional rights? How do we ensure that governance is both stable and accountable? How do we cultivate leadership that is acceptable to citizens beyond established families? The University of San Carlos, and I am certain most, if not all, HEIs in Cebu as well, support anti-political dynasty measures that would include, among others, number 1, passage of anti-political dynasty law now, just in time for the 2028 national and local elections. As mentioned, 24 measures have already been filed before the committee. We are positive that after 39 years, the time is now. The law must include both thin and fat political dynasties in the context of succession and consolidation. If Congress continues to sleep on its job, a charter change through a constitutional convention must finally make the prohibition self-executory. However, the problem cannot be solved with just the anti-political dynasty law. We need to strengthen political parties. This could help counter dynastic tendencies by fostering internal political party democracy and promoting merit-based selection of candidates, and can provide alternative avenues for political advancement outside of family networks. Please institutionalize electoral reforms. This could include campaign finance regulations to level the playing field, ensuring that candidates without vast family wealth can still compete effectively. And finally, support voter education program. This would educate citizens on the implications of dynastic politics and empower them to make informed choices. Academic scholars have highlighted the link between political dynasties and poor governance, poverty and corruption, and slow development. When political positions are treated as inherited rights rather than public trust, accountability can diminish. Decisions may be made to benefit family interests rather than the welfare of the broader populace. Political dynasty pose a significant threat to our democracy and good governance in the Philippines. When I was serving chair of the USC Department of Political Science, I conducted countless interviews with prospective students, yet one has remained with me. As part of the usual exchange, I asked the young applicant why he wished to pursue a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. Without hesitation, he replied, "Because my father told me I will be the next mayor of our municipality after his term." We need and we must put an end to this entitlement. Political power is a public trust, not a family heirloom to be passed from one surname to another. A democracy that belongs to the people must never be inherited by a few. But to be very candid about it, we are happy to see products of political dynasty with us this morning, fighting for anti-political dynasty measures. And that for us is a positive development. Again, pass the anti-political dynasty now in time for the 2028 national and local elections. Daghang salamat for this opportunity to participate.
Our next speaker is Adi Balimbingan, a BA Communications student, like myself, 32 years ago. Yay! Very cool, Ms. Balimbingan.
Mayong Udto, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Adi, a BA Communications student, a member of the Lantugi Debate Organization of UP Cebu. To the people of the House and to everyone, mayong pag-abot sa Cebu. And I'd also like to note that today is my birthday. So welcome here. Few manifestations. The anti-political dynasty bill specifically disallows people of the same surnames on the different provisions from 2nd to 4th degree, as per my research, to hold positions in the national and local level. I believe that partisan politics still favors of the most charismatic beyond the familiar surnames, making merits secondary. That means that we still question how do we then ensure that not only a law is institutionalized when partisan politics still exists, such as that we ensure merits will be considered primary in voting, because if one is to argue, Robin Padilla is a fresh surname, but he is not what the people truly deserve. Because in time for the anti-political dynasty bill, we have to question how does the passing changes the voting behavior of individuals in this country holistically. And as someone from the youth sector, a proud LGBT member, an scholar ng bayan, a Muslim of this country, we support the anti-dynasty law bill, but it must also look at the audacity of future servant leaders or politicians to be deserving, but to also actively include those individuals even from the islands of Batanes down to Tawi-Tawi. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is R.A.V. Fortuna. He writes here, a private citizen. Is R.A.V. Fortuna still here? Dito po tayo sa harap, sir. Lumapit po tayo sa mikropono. Opo, magandang hapon po sa inyo, sir.
Mayong hapon ka na itong tanan. First of all, allow me to request the members of Congress here 2 words: impeach her. I didn't say him, I said her. Let me go to my point. I'm sorry I have to speak English because I can only speak Cebuano. Kung gusto mo ako minisayon, kami rin ni Congressman Adjo ang magkasinabot. So, let me just say something. Let us make the law fit to the personality, culture, and mindset of the Filipinos. The Filipinos easily forget. They forget. Take note. I'm sorry, I am 72 years old, and so I was born 54, and in 1972, which was martial law year, I was already a college student. CIT. There are 3 things that I want added into this law or into this bill. 3 things. Because all I hear from the radio and see on TV are only the consanguinity and affinity relations. What about the chronological limitations? What I mean is, if a person has been sitting in a position for 3 consecutive terms, allow for a space between that and the next relative. Allow for a space so that there will be no continuity of, like what the teacher from St. Carlos said. You will be the next mayor? Come on, man. Secondly, let there be a geographical limitation to it. Like, if there is a congressman from the 1st district of wherever, there shouldn't be a congressman of another district of the same name. There should be a barrier again. Congressman Cutie, I'm sorry, I'm from Mandawi, and I am sick of the continuity of names there. Taga Mandawi Mangugo, and I'm a senior citizen of Mandawi. And the third is really put it in the mindset of these people who want to perpetuate in power. Put it, excuse me, put it in the mindset. Let us criminalize the intent, the criminal intent and the malice of having to run, knowing that this law prohibits it. What is criminal intent? By letting them sign a waiver. If you will win, and you know that you are not qualified because of the provisions, you go to jail. The members of Congress may be smiling or happy or what, and may say, this guy is stupid. Because I am not a politician. I have never imagined myself to become a politician. I hate popularity. I don't want also to become an actor. Okay? So,
Sorry.
So, politics and acting are outside of my field. As I said, I'm from CIT, so I'm a technocrat. Talk to me. Talk to me about chemistry, about physics, about mathematics. I'll be very happy to talk with you. But please consider these three things that I ask you to include in the provisions. Punitive and penalizing provisions of your bill that you want to make. Maayong hapon, daghang salamat.
We now call on Lazanax Lauron from the Alliance of Environmentalists and STEM Students for Inclusive Governance. Is Mr. Lauron here? Okay.
Maing buntag tanan. Well, I wrote this last night assuming na buntag unta magsugod, pero anyway. Ako si Lazanax Lauron. I live here in Cebu, but I'm currently a fourth-year biology student at UP Diliman. I am a member of the Alliance of Environmentalists and STEM Students for Inclusive Governance. Miyembro ako ng sektor ng kabataan at isa akong iskolar ng siyensya, ng saribuhay, ng ekolohiya at ng bayan.
Sir,
I will proceed with my points.
yeah,
sir.
can I just a request to allow our Vice Mayor to address the audience because he's leaving now, if it's okay with you. You can continue on after after him, okay? Okay. At saka Elden, yang mas bata-bata ka naman eh. Show allow the senior. Mayor Osmeña, please.
Thank you very much. Maayong hapon ka ninyong tanan. I just want to assure you, I'm in favor of the anti-dynasty bill. As a matter of fact, think very clearly to help accelerate it. You can encourage one family member to run against another. That will allow many families to split up. I don't mind that, no. I'd like to thank the Cebuanos for giving me the opportunity, for having served you for so long. Give others a chance. No? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Osmeña, for gracing the affair. Sir, please continue. Sorry,
Okay lang. Okay. As a member of the general public participating in an otherwise historic moment, I am grateful for being given the opportunity to manifest this opinion, which is just as much a product of my own thought as the place and situation in which I inhabit. Before I provide broader remarks, I'd like to provide a few direct notes on some technical aspects of the matter. From a cursory reading of the proposed House bills, some Senate bills, and the position papers that you have provided for us, I directly say the following. 1. The definition and prohibition of the political dynasty must not be based on any subjective criteria like good or bad or whatnot. It should also not be based on the presence of the incumbents alone, but should be defined simply in relation to the undivided set of all people who are holding, running, position to occupy via party list nomination, or whosoever filed a COC to occupy any public office, be elective only or elective plus appointive. Nasa inyo na yan. On this point, NAMFREL's position paper is most informative. Some House bills say that it is okay for someone to occupy a local office even if they are related to some incumbent in national office. And some of those qualify that it is okay for this to happen so long as the local office is not in the hometown of the incumbent in national office or some such thing. The effect of such provisions would be an institutionalization of spread out political dynasties and not a successful prohibition. Not to mention that these may end up sounding less like a prohibition and more like a description of actually existing dynasties. These more geographical, administrative, or technical exceptions to this basic definition of the political dynasty relation will only make it harder for COMELEC to examine claims of violations to the ATD or anti-political dynasty law. Any qualifications to this definition of political dynasty should be understood as nothing else but institutionalization of political dynasties. 2. On the matter of what degree of relations should be considered, there is no reason to really believe that the fourth degree of consanguinity or affinity cannot be pursued, provided that government agencies are empowered to examine up to this level. If I understand correctly, the Local Government Code of 1991 already prohibits officials from appointing people within the fourth degree of consanguinity or affinity. This is an anti-nepotism measure. So I do not really understand what all this fuss about enforceability is about. In effect, we'd also be questioning the enforceability of this nepotism prohibition. Beyond the appeal of harmonizing with this nepotism prohibition, this maximum prohibition on political dynasties should be pursued in order to have the best chances at unambiguously ending their chokehold on the politics of this country. 3. I also hope that you will heavily coordinate with COMELEC and PSA to make sure that the enforcement of the APD law is smooth, requiring sworn statements from the COC filer and empowering COMELEC to decide which persons remain within the set of non-dynastic individuals as proposed by Rep. Po, if I remember correctly, would be sufficiently responsive and would ensure that COMELEC can do its job with as little discretion as possible. So these matters should be discussed with COMELEC if they have not been done yet. The worst thing that could happen for this law is if the Supreme Court would decide that some provision is vague or faulty, effectively killing the APD law. Please consider how particular implementations of this prohibition might be challenged in the judiciary up to the Supreme Court perhaps. 4. The concrete effects of the APD law should be considered at least. What I mean to say is that we should also ask how political dynasties might respond to this legislation, and the reforms should be cognizant of this. My fear is that though dynasties may be effectively thinned by this law, political families would simply coordinate with each other, alternating with each other to run for public office. Whereas political power before may be secured by marriages, the introduction of the APD law may force these political families to coordinate with each other outside of the conceived relations of consanguinity, affinity, and other de facto relations. In light of this, I think the APD law is not enough and should be considered alongside reforms that increase the transparency of elections, like campaign finance reforms and ending bank secrecy for candidates, COC filers, and incumbents. These other reforms may not be necessary for defining political dynasties per se, but they are what make it sufficient in ending the reign of political dynasties, of corruption, and in finally creating a level playing field for our democracy. I think it is reasonable for the public to hope and expect that this committee will produce a draft bill that is much better than the ones currently floating around in Congress. It would be depressing to think that all this consultation was for naught, just because some legislators think that a few of them in Congress know better than the many citizens, experts, and organizations who now have been consulted for this law. I challenge this committee and Congress to follow through. Now, I also believe that having an opinion means having both an opinion for something and an opinion against something, and that those two are inseparable. So with that in mind, amidst the lack of a more deliberative forum, I would also like to use this opportunity to briefly intervene on certain ideas and opinions and try to eliminate what I perceive to be confusions on this matter. Please give me 5 more minutes.
No, that's too much of a that's 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah, but if you have like a if you have a position paper, if you have that,
Please submit it because we have a long list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carla, request na lang sa
Yes,
kanila.
kindly email the position paper to the Committee on Suffrage, and we will present it to the members.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next speaker is from Bayan Central Visayas by the name of Jaime Paglinawan.
Mga halangdong congressman sa 20th Congress, mga resource person, mga taigsuuna na ko dinhi sa Bulwagan sa University of the Philippines, mayong hapon natong tanan. Ang bagong Aliansa Makabayan, Central Visayas, nagrehistro itong public consultation na kailangan na ipasar, ibalaod ang anti-political dynasty. At kami nagsuporta sa House Bill 209, House Bill 4784 para buwagin ang mga political dynasty sa ating bansa. Grabe ka-insulto. Almost 40 years after the 1987 Constitution na binigyan tayo ng isang provision na kailangan walang political dynasty para equal yung mamayang Pilipino na magpa-elect sa iba't ibang posisyon. Almost 40 years. Lumulubo, nilapad, lumalawak ang pamilya na nagkontrol sa iba't ibang posisyon. Si Ama naging gobernador ng batas. Bakit hindi nila pinasa ang mga panukalang batas para ipagbawal ang anti-political dynasty? So nakita natin ngayon, habang ang iba't ibang posisyon na kontrolado sa mga iilang pamilya lang, parang mana nila ang kanilang posisyon. Parang negosyo ang posisyon at nangyari bilyon na piso ang ninakaw. Tayo ang top 3 sa buong Southeast Asia na pinakakorap na bansa. Ito ay masakit na katotohanan. Dahil sa kontrolan sa mga pamilya, hindi natin kayang maimbestiga o mapriso man kahit kitang-kita na yung mga kinawatay sa pundo dahil sila rin ang nagdipinsahay. So mga halandong mga congressman, ipakita ninyo ngayon sa 20th Congress na kailangan ipasa ninyo ang tunay para sa tao, ang anti-political dynasty, para yung mga pangalan ninyo mailagay na kayo yung pingunahan ni Chairman Congressman Adjong, na kung mapasa ito sa 20th Congress, mailagay yung pangalan ninyo na kayo yung tunay nagmamalasakit sa mga mamayang Pilipino. Balik ko, we support House Bill 209, we support House Bill 4784, break the monopoly of elite rules and advance genuine democracy. Maraming salamat po.
Our next speakers are the members of CIT4, Cyan, Rom, and 2 others, most probably, from the Progressive Alliance of Concerned Technologies. The spelling is really wrong.
Sorry.
Exit. Okay. Hi.
Hello, we are the members of the Progressive Alliance of Concerned Technologians, or PAC CIT.
Technologians. See, that's why I'm so confused.
Yes, I'm sorry for the bad writing. First and foremost, we want to, with what I'm going to say right now, we want to relate our experiences as student activists and, I guess, victims of student repression to why we support an anti-political dynasty measure and why we support every single measure that aims to put transparency and institutionalize consequences to people who use our political system for their own greedy personal interests. We did a signature campaign to clamor for an open and public consultation on the tuition fee increase in CIT. Under Cebu City Students' Rights and Welfare Ordinance, we are, we deserve that, a public...
Focus on political dynasties, please.
Yes.
We have lots of issues in the University of the
this world.
We need the political dynasty stand first, right now.
So the reason why we want to support the stance on anti-political dynasties, and again, every single measure that aims to put more consequences to those who use our system for corruption, who use our system to plunder our resources, is primarily for the fact that many people are suffering and deserve to have justice in their hands, right? Students like us who have been threatened with expulsion, we deserve justice, and we deserve it not just in school, we deserve it even outside of school. We deserve it because under our system, we are not the only victims. The victims include Charis Banyes, who was wrongfully imprisoned in Agusan del Norte, or Agusan del Sur, in Agusan. Some of these victims include Frenchie May Cumpio, a journalist who was imprisoned in Eastern Visayas, and many more, including Miles Albacin, who has recently been released, Alvin Fortaleza, who has recently been released. These people are fighting for our rights as we have been. We fought for a public consultation and we got an expulsion threat. How many more people have had worse in our system? How many people have died fighting for even the most basic rights, right? Even the most basic welfare. And yet, family dynasties, who are some of the most corrupt and some of the most fascist individuals in this country, are the ones who are suppressing these, right? Many of the mining companies that have been violent towards protesters, many of the various companies that have been reported to bust unions. By the way, these are, again, our rights, have been owned by political dynasties. Even some of the schools and universities in Cebu have been owned by political dynasties. Again, we register our support for every measure that not only aims to put consequences on corruption, but also every measure that aims to broaden our democracy, to let us be more free in our own country, especially, and I guess more relevant to us, the Students' Rights Bill that Kabataan Party List has been campaigning for many years. We support these kinds of measures because we don't deserve to live in a country where our voices are silenced. We don't deserve to live in a country where signing a petition gets you expelled, and we don't deserve to live in a country where reporting on the truth gets you killed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we now call on Francis Bakatan of Kabataan Party List Cebu.
Carla, please, I request all those participants who have spoken and shared to us their positions on the matter on political dynasty. So please submit your position paper, not just your the way you express it today, but we want to have it submitted in writing para we would know exactly what you mean by your individual proposal and what do you mean by amending certain provisions in the current in the 24 versions of the proposed measure. So yun lang po, i-request ko lang po and then i-remind ko lang po ang ating mga ang ating audience. Thank you very much, Carla.
Okay.
Hello everyone, I am Francis Bakatan, the current Secretary General of Kabataan Party List Cebu City, and I would like to share my manifestation in support for House Bill 209-4784, authored by the Makabayan Bloc, because political dynasties hinder genuine youth representation. Now, as Secretary General of the sole and genuine youth voice in Congress, here in Cebu, we've handled many cases of repression. In every instance of repression, we're told it's against the Cebu Students' Rights and Welfare Ordinance, or STRAW. We are told to go to the institutionalized Cebu straw desks. However, to this day, these structures are left neglected. Why? Because under the domination of political dynasties, it is in their interest to keep the youth disorganized and submissive. By breaking the concentration of power held by dynasties, we pave the way for the genuineness of the youth to be heard. That is why I support the passing of Bill 209-4784, authored by the Makabayan Bloc, as the most comprehensive anti-dynasty bill to ensure genuine youth representation for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Francis. The next is from the University Student Council, Supreme Student Council. That's what she or he wrote. Supreme Student Council of San Carlos. All right, Maui Cruz.
Hello, maayong adlaw sa inyong tanan. Ako di ay si Maui Cruz, the President of the USC Supreme Student Council. And on behalf of the Council, we would like to register our support, Bill 209 and 4784. Political dynasties do not survive on popularity alone. They survive by building systems that shield them from accountability. When families treat public office as inheritance, descent, syempre, it becomes a threat. And because because there are families that are so desperate to keep power in their kin, they will do anything to fend off any threats to that, which includes repression. And as we near the anniversary of EDSA, we remember how Marcos, as part of the highest and the most notorious political dynasty, relied on weaponizing state forces through martial law to secure political control for his family. Now today, as students, while the context may look different, we still feel similar tactics inside our schools. Within the past few months, students have reported increased state-sponsored red tagging and black propaganda. For example, the continuous attempts of NTF-ELCAC, headed by and supported by political dynasties, to red tag progressive student leaders and organizations online and even inside our campuses, making it harder for students to form organizations, mobilize, and speak on issues that really matter, like political dynasties. Because when political power is concentrated in the hands of a few families, they also gain control over state machinery. And with that control comes the capacity to silence critics and intimidate those who challenge them, even students, especially those who are active against speaking out on pertinent issues. And that is why we support and call on everyone in this room, because in truth, the next person who will be repressed might be someone in this room. To support House Bill 209 and 4784, because these bills are what will genuinely protect the rights and welfare of the youth and will allow us to foster an environment where students can freely organize and mobilize for their advocacies without fear of political persecution from the state or their own schools. We cannot allow more of the youth to be afraid of speaking up and fighting for the future na deserve naman natin. Daghang salamat. Thank you so much.
We proceed to SWV FINMA, Supreme Student Government, Duke Dominique Emia. Did I pronounce that correctly? And is he here? Duke Dominique?
So Hello. Good afternoon to honorable members of the House of Representatives. My name is Duke Dominic Emia, the current Vice President of Southwestern University FINMA's Supreme Student Government. But today I'm also representing Kabataan Contra Corruption. From Kabataan Contra Corruption, we would like to express our support for House Bills 209 and House Bills 4784. Political dynasties heavily entrenched in our political system destroy the very essence of democracy and accountability, where control is concentrated within families and funds are more easily funneled towards their pockets. In this culture that normalizes corruption, leadership positions are treated as family property, more so run as business rather than positions held to benefit the people. We even see that beyond holding simultaneous positions, dynastic successions extend the same extent of control over governmental positions. In this effect, this is the effect that allows anomalous infrastructure projects to pass. In Cebu, billions of pesos were spent on clearly anomalous flood control, more than 26 billion pesos, but it still resulted in two-story high floods and more than 200 deaths. This has heavily affected lives of students, where academic materials, papers, laptops were washed away by the flood. It was corruption that made that disaster. Political dynasties benefited from the demise of their constituents. Therefore, in our fight against corruptions, we believe that all forms of dynasties be disallowed immediately and decisively. So Kabataan Contra Corruption therefore supports House Bill 209 and 4784. Thank you and mayong hapon.
Thank you. From the League of Filipino Students Cebu, may I call on Gabby Saavedra.
Maayong hapon sa tanan, sa kay estudyantihan, sa membro sa House of Representatives o sa tanan pa nga lain-laing sektor nga naakaron sa karon nga forum or karon nga hearing. Mula sa perspektibo ng League of Filipino Students Cebu, buong puso at matibay naming sinusuportahan ang House Bill 209 at House Bill 4784, ang anti-political dynasty bill. We register that there is no good political dynasties. Kanina sinasabi na baka may distinction ang political dynasties. Merong good at merong bad. Pero from the perspective of the League of Filipino Students and all amongst the National Democratic Mass Organizations here in the forum, we register that walang mabuti na political dynasty. Ang mga political dynasty ay hindi lamang baluktot sa eleksyon. Sila ay konkretong mekanismo ng iilang mga pamilya, mga elites. Sa sistemang ito, nagiging instrumento ang pampublikong opisina para sa pribadong yaman ng iilang mga pamilya. Mga bilyonaryo andito ngayon sa ating political spaces, yung mga negosyante na andito pa rin sa ating Kongreso, sa Senado, yung mga may hawak sa malalaking lupa, yung mga Villars, sila andito pa rin sa Senado. So, kinukundina natin yung gantong pag-aalaw ng ating pamahalaan sa gantong mga pamilya na nagmonopolyo sa ating spaces in the political sphere. So, sa pamamagitan ng mga political dynasty, sinasakop nila ang yaman ng gobyerno. Sinasakop nila yung mga projects, yung mga infrastructural projects. Kung dito sa Cebu, yung flood control projects natin na nangunguna yung QM builders, saka yung link to Jasper Distaya. Yung pagkontrol sa ating mga lupain, yung ating mga kayamanan at iba pang resources na minomopolyo ng gantong mga pamilya. Tinitiyak ng political dynasties ang pagpapatuloy sa sistemang ito. Kaya naman kinukundina natin yung gantong pamamahala ng mga political dynasties. Sa pamagitan ng pag-upo ng maraming posisyon sa halalan, pumapasok po sila sa iba't ibang branches ng ating government, sa Congress, sa Senate, sa LGUs at iba pa. Halimbawa na rito yung sinasabi kanina ni Cebu City 1st District Representative Rachel Del Mar, na mismo siya, minana niya yung pwesto sa kanyang generation, sa kanyang ama at iba pa. Yung kuya niya nasa Kongreso pa rin. So yung mga ganong mekanismo, nandito, manifested siya at nakikita natin in everyday basis. Walang good na political dynasty. Nire-register natin yan. At ngayon, kinakailangan ng kabataang Pilipino na sumang-ayon na sa lahat ng antas, walang good yung dinudulot ng political dynasties. Nakaka-capture nila kasi yung mga policies, yung mga palisiya, pinapabor nila yung mga proyekto at mga policies na nakabe-benefit sa kanilang mga interes. Ang pagsuporta sa panukalang batas, ang House Bill 209 at House Bill 4784 na galing sa Makabayan Bloc, ito ay pagsuporta sa tunay na demokratikong pampolitika laban sa minumunang yaman mula sa pampublikong opisina at laban sa sistemang kung saan ang gobyerno ay naglilingkod lamang para sa iilan at hindi sa sambayanang Pilipino.
Wrap up, please.
Huwag nating kalimutan nga ang number 1 political dynasties ay ang Marcos Duterte. Kinakailangan natin na magkaisa, na i-impeach ang Marcos Sara na tambalan at i-oust ang Marcos Duterte. Kaya napakalaga ng mass action sa mga kabataan upang labanan ang political dynasties at kaya papakalagang mass actions upang labanan ang political dynasties at ang paghahari ng iilang pamilya sa ating lipunan. Inaanyayahan ko ang lahat ng kabataan ngayon at lahat ng iba't ibang sektor ngayon na sumali sa mobilisasyon ngayong Pebrero 25 upang itigil ang dynastic rule at ipaglaban ang karapatan ng marami. At tatandaan natin, walang pwesto ang dapat minamana. Walang kayamanan ang dapat ipamana. Ang kapangyarihan sa Estado ay para sa sambayan lamang. Kaya naman, lahat ng kabataan, i-impeach natin si Sara, i-impeach natin si Marcos, at i-oust natin ang tambalang Marcos Sara Duterte.
Alright. Okay. All of you have position papers that you wish read or submitted to the committee, so take down our committee email, committee.suffrage You can spell that, you're UP kids. committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph. We will get all your position papers so that we will integrate them in our deliberation. All right, the next speaker is from LP Youth, Matthew Avancenia.
Hello everyone, my name is J. Matthew Avancenia. I'm from LP Youth, but most importantly, right now I speak as a mildly annoyed citizen of the Republic of the Philippines. There is no greater teacher than history, and no lesson, I believe, embodies this need for this bill more than the tale of the great Qing dynasty. At the height of its power, it inherited a civilization that was richer and more advanced than any other nation on earth, but yet it was held hostage. Unlike the older dynasties of China, the Qing were ruled by the Manchu, a small group that ruled over an overwhelmingly Han nation, a recipe for disaster, as the Mongolian Yuan proved. As the world outside advanced, the Qing's nobility and leadership, too entrenched with their own power, to maintain that fragile power, they kept their nation ignorant. If you know history, it is no secret that the advancement of technology often coincided with the empowerment of the people. Higher literacy rates, economic mobility, and of course the Qing couldn't have that. They couldn't have their fragile rule challenged by an empowered majority. So the Qing in their hubris, so convinced in their own superiority, great and ancient, lost to an island on the other side of the world, with a quarter of the population and economy. The greatest civilization on earth was carved up like a Christmas ham, and what was once a beacon became synonymous with barbarism. It happened to us too. We had infrastructure, we had industries. When we became an independent nation, something that most of Asia couldn't say, when we became an independent nation, we had what most of Asia could only dream about. Now look at us. There's a bloody educational crisis in an era where information and knowledge flow much more freely than the tap water in Talamban. Meanwhile, look at those contractors. They have houses that would make the most hedonistic Roman emperors blush. Political dynasties may start with strong personalities, but oftentimes they fall into hedonism and compliance. Talent isn't inherited. A common joke I'd like to tell, you know, I'm a distant relative of Bruno Mars, and yet, when I sing, I sound like a mouse whose parachute won't open. We're encouraging kids who grew up in gilded cages, utterly ignorant of reality, to lead. And why should they innovate? Why should they get better if power is as guaranteed as Gucci and tax evasion for these people? We didn't throw a king, a distant president, and an emperor into the sea just so we could be ruled by 100 despots. Let's make politics competitive again. We are in a race. The world is progressing and changing much more quickly in the last 200 years than the rest of human history. We went from biplanes to space shuttles in half a century, and it's only getting more competitive out there. Give us the youth, a nation to be proud of, a nation that can still stand, a nation that will not be looked down upon for being backwards and dishonest. Give us a nation that our ancestors would be proud of. Rizal didn't die for this, nor did Bonifacio. Lapu-Lapu didn't die for this either. Thus, LP Youth Cebu and me, we support the anti-political dynasty bill, Bill 209 and Bill 4704. Thank you.
Thank you. We proceed with, we call on Howell Villacruzes of Alianza sa Mamumuo sa Sugbo, Kilosang, Mayo 1. I'm sorry for those who wish to be included in the list because we are flying out to Cagayan de Oro City in a matter of 4 hours. And so, as much as we want to accommodate everyone, we can't. So, please email us at committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph. Yes, Mr. Villacruzes.
Mayong hapon sa tanan. Ako ni si Howard Villacruzes, gikan sa Alyansa sa Mamumuno sa CEBU, at kinusang mayuno sa Alliance of Workers in Cebu. So, kami sa Alyansa sa Mamumuno sa CEBU, nagsuporta sa House Bill 209 o 4784. No? Sa mga aspeto nga una, broad siya og scope. No? It is broad in scope, meaning it covers local and national elective positions. Secondly, it is strict in definition, so dapat klaro nga katong second to the fourth consanguinity or affinity kay implement siya. Third, it should be effective in enforcement. Dapat klaro pod ang disqualification ug ang mga penalties sa paglapas aning balaod nun. Kaupat, dapat protektahan siya or protected from delusion or protected siya from the loopholes nga pwedeng buhaton. Loopholes that could be created by the political dynasties that are now currently seated in Congress and in the whole state, in truth. Sa tinuod lang, kung makita na to, no, ang political dynasty is in the executive branch and legislative branch. Kung makapasar pa siguro sila law, basin na sila sa judiciary branch, no? So, we can never say that the judiciary branch is also rid of it. So, we believe that the anti-political dynasty bill should be passed immediately because, one, for sure, Sara Duterte is running to make sure that her father could get away from ICC. And their allies can get away unscathed from all the corruption and killings they have done during the regime. Secondly, Marcos Jr., as we have seen, once he took the seat of power as president, he cleaned up his family's cases of corruption. And we cannot allow that to happen all the time. And I agree with si Sir Ganiha, the one from Mandaue, that Filipinos are made to easily forget. We do not easily forget. We are made to easily forget. So maybe we could put into the bill a measure which will entrench or put the records of political dynasties and their crimes against the people into the history books, so that it could be studied all over again by the people so we never forget. Because as a representative of the workers, we know our interest could be put simply into three things. First, job security. Second, living wages. Third, humane working conditions. But even one of the House bills filed by the Makabayan bloc supporting all those has not been passed because we believe that political dynasties are hindering it. Because political dynasties are one of the manifestations of what we call and what we analyze to be bureaucrat capitalism. Gipadagan ang atong gobyerno nga murag negosyo o gipadagan siya sa mga politikal nga dinastiya para pagserbisyo sa ilang mga kakuntsabo ng mga negosyante. O dili ta dapat magpakahilom kabahin ani. And it is a challenge to the committee that what will happen after these consultations, what will happen during the 20th Congress, will decide if you are in the right side of history. History will judge you. It may be the case that political dynasty right now is all over the Philippines. But once the people emerge victorious, you will be judged by history. So remember that. And it is a challenge to everyone in this room that the Philippine politicians will not move unless we make our voice clear. So it is a challenge to everyone to get organized, join your organizations, move within mobilizations, and push for the change that we want to happen in our society. Mora na, o dahil salamat. Manila ni pag-bisig sa tanan.
Next is Mr. Fiel Leaf of UP Cebu.
Hello, my name is Fial. I am the chairperson for the UP Political Science Society, and I promise to keep this sweet and short.
Thank you.
We would like to manifest our support for House Bills 209 and House Bill 4784 for three simple justifications. Because one, we have to ask ourselves, why do we still have to debate varied frameworks for the draft of the anti-political dynasty measures when the historical timeline in the Philippines has already shown great injustice since the past? That scholars have already published data, findings to show that local government units with political dynasties are directly related to poverty and underdevelopment. You learned that in your 151 and 152. But also, we have to see how political dynasties have entrenched not only the local systems, but all to the national systems and the relations between them. It shouldn't be a debate whether or not should we tiptoe around the policy. Should we give families some level of assurance that they can still run together? Should we still allow cousins to be in office? In fact, the policy should be blanket, should be comprehensive, and should be harsh. Because dynasties have been harsh. We shouldn't debate if it's second degree of consanguinity or fourth degree of consanguinity. Because the answer should be clear. It should be right there and adamant. Why? Because we've had the clear threat and the long overdue of a policy that has been promised to us since the 1987 Constitution. I think it is time that we should all rally behind a measure or a draft of the anti-political dynasty law that is comprehensive and immediate to all of the issues that we know, where political dynasties can't just train their cousins to be the next person in Congress, where they can't just convince the girlfriend of their boyfriend of their girlfriend to be the next person in the Senate, where they cannot just try to use all of the loopholes because we were too careful of our policies, because we wanted to be careful about impeding on quote-unquote representation for these people. There's power dynamics when people run for elections, and when families are allowed to continue, even if not through their immediate family, but even by the second consanguinity. These are harsh truths where you have the executive collaborating with their cousin in the legislative, appointing people who they want in the judiciary. These are problems that should be treated with urgency. So if the problem is, I might stop my friends or I might stop someone from allowing their granddaughter to run in office, that's a good problem to have. Because at the end of the day, leaders from the communities, from unions, from the farmers to different sectors will always emerge. What we have to do is to allow them to have the opportunity to compete equally, to compete fairly, because families, when they are big, will not be treating us peacefully. For all those reasons.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Ms. Cristina Organiza of Akbayan Citizens Action Party and Gahong sa Katauhan. Where is Ms. Organiza? All right.
Mayong hapon, ako si Cristina Organiza from Akbayan Citizens Action Party. Member po at member rin ng Gahong sa Katauhan. So, to our members of the lower house of representatives, magandang hapon din po. So, despite opportunities, ito po ay mula sa mga communities po namin. Despite opportunities over the more than 100 years of dominance by families, at papangalanan na lang po namin such as the Osmeñas, Gulyases, Uwanos, Calderons, Duranos, Martinez, and the like, statistics on poverty show numerous families across rural Cebu still struggle with inadequate income, access to basic needs, and opportunities for socio-economic mobility. Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority indicate that while provincial poverty incidence declined, it remains significant, particularly outside the highly urbanized cities of Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu. 7 districts in Cebu exhibit stark disparities in development, with areas in the southern part of the province often classified as lower income or lower class municipalities. Historically, political families have maintained long tenures in many of these districts, leading to critiques that entrenched political power has not translated into meaningful and inclusive socio-economic progress in the poorest communities. This starkly shows the inadequacy of a system dominated by the political families. The anti-political dynasty law is necessary given the systemic problem in which the rich remains rich and gets richer, while the poor remains poor and gets poorer. Our position, number 1, political dynasties is one of the root cause of persistent inequality. We assert that political dynasties where members of the same family occupy elective positions across generations contribute to governance challenge such as A, concentration of power and weak political competition, B, biased allocation of public resources and patronage politics, C, limited accountability to constituents, D, reduced innovation in local governance strategies. These factors can impede systemic approaches to rural development, livelihood programs, and poverty reduction, particularly in districts struggling to diversify their economies. Number 2, support for a 4th-degree restriction with safeguards. We support legislation that prohibits relatives within the 4th civil degree from simultaneously or consecutively holding elective office as a meaningful step toward preventing entrenched political monopolies, provided that the law is comprehensive and enforceable. Specifically, A, definition must be clear and enforceable. The bill should define dynasty in a way that captures not just immediate succession, but also circumvention tactics, rotation, substitution, and overlapping positions that political clans use to retain power. B, avoid loopholes that permit circumvention. Provisions should explicitly ban substitution, rotation, and immediate succession of relatives. This ensures the law prevents dynastic perpetuation of political power instead of merely limiting concurrent office holding. And letter C, establish a cooling off period. A mandatory cooling off period requiring a full electoral cycle before a prohibited relative can run for the same or overlapping post will help break cycle of immediate political inheritance. And number 3, governance and service delivery. Breaking dynastic dominance should not be an end in itself, but a means to strengthen governance, performance, and public service delivery. The law should be accompanied by 1, institutional reforms in civil service professionalism. 2, transparent procurement and budgeting processes. 3, support for community leadership and grassroots representation. 4, local economic development planning and prioritizes the poorest districts. These measures can create pathways for emerging leaders rooted in community concerns rather than familial concern. In conclusion, I should say familiar connections. In conclusion, in the context of Cebu, where persistent poverty in rural districts and uneven development outcomes remain significant concerns, A genuine and comprehensive anti-political dynasty law grounded on a fourth-degree prohibition can be an important reform. However, for it is to meaningfully promote democratic inclusivity and socio-economic development, such as legislation, must be free of loopholes, enforceable, and paired with institutional governance reform. Political power should be determined by merit and public support, not lineage and inherited privilege. Ensuring broad political participation and accountability is integral to addressing long-standing challenges like poverty, inequity, and governance deficits in Cebu's 7 districts. Og hangyon gihapon namo og pangusga namo ang gahom sa katawhan.
Thank you. So now at this point, we wish to call on stage the Chair of the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, Chair Zia, and the University of the Philippines Cebu Chancellor Leo B. Malagar. Okay, all authors and members of the House, kindly come up on stage for a photo opportunity with the one, the only, Chancellor Leo of UP Cebu. Love it. Dito po sa stage, sirs. Again, reminding all of you to email us at committee.suffrage@house.gov.ph for all your positions. Ma'am.
Si Chair. Ma'am. So, on behalf of the committee, Chancellor Malagar, daghang salamat sa imong accommodation. On a very short notice, you responded to a positive way and allowed us to use your campus as a venue for the public consultation. So allow me, Your Honors, Chancellor, to read Republic of the Philippines, House of Representatives, Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, 20th Congress. Certificate of Appreciation is hereby given to Attorney Leo B. Malagar, Chancellor, University of the Philippines, Cebu, for their invaluable contribution in the successful undertaking of the public hearing on anti-political dynasty measures held on February 19, 2026, at the Performing Arts Hall, University of the Philippines, Cebu, Cebu City, given this 19th day of February 2026, signed by the Chairperson. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much.
In sum, ladies and gentlemen, this public hearing, public consultation, fully 100% supports the institutionalization of prohibiting political dynasties. Not one speaker expressed support for political dynasties. Is that an accurate summation of this public consultation? All right, UP